All right, welcome back. So, right now, what I want to talk about is something really, really important for international students. Agents, education agents. Are they good? Are they bad? What should you know about them? So, we're going to spend a little bit of time just talking about them. So, first of all, yes. Yes, they are very, very good. You have to get the right one, and you have to know what to look for, and you also have to know what to expect from them. What they help with and what is on you. But overall, agents are good. One thing that's kind of interesting is when I first came into higher education back in 2011, I'll admit, at first I didn't like agents. I thought agents were just all about the money or just all about trying to take advantage of people. It's actually the opposite. Like I became good friends with like a lot of agents. Like I've traveled the world and talked with a lot of agents. And honestly, agents are awesome. So yeah, they really help out. So the way that what made that switch in my mind was one time I was just traveling. I was in India. India's awesome. Barbecue Nation is an awesome restaurant to go to. And I was in Barbecue Nation and I was thinking, if my kid, I have kids, if I'm a dad, if one of my kids wanted to study here in India, how would I go about that? Like, yeah, I have friends in India. I would call one of them. I have friends that went to university in India. I would call them. But really, when it comes to like the admissions process, finding the right school, yeah, I would want someone who actually knows what they're talking about and knows what they're doing. And so think about how agents play that role. That is kind of what flipped the switch for me. So just understand that I have expertise. I understand higher education, but I also don't understand education in other countries. And so, I lived in Korea for 2 years after high school. So thinking about friends from Korea and how they're also parents, and let's say they have kids that they want to send to the United States to study. Awesome. Good for them. They have people that they could call, people that have been through university, but those friends might not fully understand the admissions process. They might not know what an I-20 is, CVIP, CVIS. They wouldn't know what that type of stuff is. They wouldn't know how soon a student could arrive in the United States. So there's a lot of specific details that agents know that the average person wouldn't. And so even if I have a lot of friends in India and I love them all to death, yeah, I would still get in contact with an education agent for them to teach us on what's needed to study in India and help us find the right school and go through the admissions process. And so in a nutshell, yes, education agents are awesome. So in this video, we're going to cover a couple questions. So the first one is, what do education agents do? So let's say you're in India and you have a son, daughter, or maybe you yourself want to study in the United States. And you go to an agent's office. Great. What do they help with? So let's talk about that for a second. So the first thing that they do is they give insight. Like I said, these people, they understand the United States, they understand the UK, Australia, they understand the education systems. And so they give guidance, they give assurance, they can act as the contact, the liaison with those universities. Because to be an official agent and to be able to do business dealings with these universities, they have to have a contract. And so schools are actually very selective, or at least most schools are selective on what agents they work with. And so these schools trust these specific agents that have contracts with them. And so those agents are able to give advice and counseling for specific schools. And so it's very, very rare for an agent to have 8,000 universities that they work with. Most of the time it's only a couple hundred, but there are so many good quality schools around the world, but mostly talking about here in the United States, that even if it's a couple hundred, yeah, that's enough to give you good options. So the first thing that they do is give you insight. The second thing is they help you find the right school. So they might ask things like, do you like big cities? Do you like small cities? Do you like big classes? Do you like small classes? How important is ranking? How important is your budget or avoiding student loans or minimizing student loans? Where, like, are there specific states in the United States that you want to study in or any country around the world? So they're there to help you find the right school. The country, the state, the school itself, they're there to help identify it. And like I said, they usually have a portfolio of a couple hundred schools that they're working with, which isn't a bad thing at all. Like that's actually a good amount. I get worried if an agent has too many contracts because that might indicate that maybe they don't know all the schools as well as they maybe should. And so they help you find the right school. They also help you fill out the application. Yeah, there are some applications that are more universal, more common, but some of those applications are a pain in the butt. The reason why I say that is because they'll ask questions that have nothing to do with whether or not you could get admitted or not. So they might ask questions like, where did your parents go to university? Which of your parents went to university? Which of your parents do you live with? What do they do for work right now? Are you an only child? Like none of that information helps when it comes to can you pass your classes or not? Because really what school really should be caring about is can you pass your classes? Can you finance your studies? And are you going to be able to get a student visa? Like those are the main things that schools really care about. But also they also care about you as an individual, believe it or not. So they also care about will you be happy or not. And so those are really what schools should be caring about, not these odd questions that are on applications. And so these agents, they'll process the application for you, which is a huge, huge, huge help. Then the last thing that most agencies do is they help you get your visa. There's never like a silver bullet. There's never a slam dunk as to yes, you will get your visa or no, you won't get your visa. But they can definitely give guidance and help increase your chances of getting a visa. So you could use your agent. There's a company that we recommend also called Practice Interview. They help you prepare for your student visa. So those are things that the agent can do. So they'll give you insight, they'll help you find the right school, fill out your application, and help you get your visa and everything ready, your bags packed so you could come to the United States and study. So that's what agents do. The second thing I want to talk about is how much do agents cost? Ooh. How much do agents cost? So is there a fee for using an agent? Sometimes it really depends because in some markets, like in India, yeah, it's actually pretty common. And I'll explain why that's actually not a bad thing. In some markets, no. It really depends. It depends on the agency and it depends on the market. When I say market, really I mean country. So it depends on the country. And so will there be a cost to you from the agency? It really depends. So some agencies might cost a couple $100. And that is not a bad, it's not a bad thing. The reason why is because the agencies, the way that they make most of their money is through their contracts with universities. And so let's say I'm an agent in Hyderabad. Hyderabad's awesome. I love Hyderabad. So let's say I'm an agent in Hyderabad and I'm meeting with students and I'm not charging any fees to these students. Great. Well, I could process the application, but then the student, there is a risk to me because that student might go to another agency, then process an application as well to other universities and then ultimately go with another university from another agent. And so if that's the case, even if I spend like say 5 hours with a student, yeah, it profits me nothing and I just waste a lot of time and resources which are very, very valuable and I could have used that time to actually help other students. And so at the risk, because there is a risk of students using different agents and then going and kind of not you using the time knowledge and resources of an agency, but ultimately going with another agency. Because that risk is there, it's actually not a bad thing if an agency charges a processing fee. Now, that being said, there are some agencies where they will charge a lot of money. If they are charging a lot of money, make sure that they're a good quality agency. Make sure that they're reputable. Make sure that they have actually indeed have contracts with these schools. Okay. So that leads to the next common question, which is how to find the right agent. So how do you find a good agent? So there are a couple resources here. And so the first one is actually our website, so brightered.com. We actually have an arguably the largest agency network in the entire industry. We have contact information from 38,000-ish education counselors, so people who work at agencies. So we have a huge network. And so if you go to our website, you could actually put in a request to be connected with an agency. So that is actually the first place where I would recommend. Nice and simple. And we would only recommend actually good ones, so really vetted ones. The second place, there's a couple agencies or a couple organizations. I'll write it here on the screen so everybody knows it. It's AIRC and ISEF. Excuse me. These are two organizations that what they do is, maybe that's messing up. Two organizations, and what they do is there we go, AIRC and ISEF. So these two organizations, what they do is they certify education agents. And so there's a fee from the agency to these organizations for them to then get evaluated, get certified, get their credentials. And so AIRC and ISEF, they're both great organizations. They both have a very long vetting process. And so you could go to their websites as well and find a good agency. So that is another resource for you, is AIRC and ISEF. So when it comes to agents, make sure that you find the right one. Make sure that they can indeed help you from all the way from finding the right school and getting your application in to getting admitted and arriving in the United States. So a couple common questions that I get. So I've been working with education agents since 2011. So some of the common questions that I would see is if a student is denied admissions, let's say a student is applying to UCLA, like a highly competitive school. Let's say a student wants to get in at UCLA and they go to one agent's office and they get denied. Like they apply to UCLA, they get denied. The question is, could that student then go to another agency and apply through another agency and try to get admitted? The answer is no. The reason why is because that application was denied by UCLA, not against the agent, but they denied you. So they denied your application. So if you're denied admissions to, say, UCLA, you cannot go to another agency and apply. Well, technically you could, but it's going to be the same exact result. It's going to also lead to a rejection. Another common question is, can agencies help with scholarships? Yes, they can. There are some agencies, I know some really good ones, where that's actually how they differentiate themselves. Like they say, okay, yeah, we make sure that everyone gets a scholarship, even if it's like a small partial scholarship. So that's another thing to note. One of the things that I judge on, or I should say other people judge on that I don't, is whether or not the agent speaks English. And so let's say you're trying to study in the United States. Should you go to an agency where that person studied in the United States? No, not at all. Doesn't matter whether or not that person speaks English or not. Not necessarily, no. In Korea, actually, one of my favorite counselors, great guy, did not study in the United States, and his English is not good. Like, love the guy to death, but his English is not good. And so is it required that they studied in the United States or that they speak English fluently? No, not necessarily. Um, One other question that I also get is can agents help with the visa? The answer to that is yes and no. Like, yes, some agents can offer that as an additional service. Or like I said, you could use a third-party service like Practice Interview. You could use YouTube tutorials. Like there are some YouTube videos. But the main thing that you want to do is just practice because I've seen some of the best agents where they help the student prepare a ton, but then the student still gets denied for a visa. And so do I look at, as a university, do I look at that agency and say, oh, their student got denied? Like, no, I look at the student. I hate to say that, but yeah, that's kind of on the student. But yeah, agencies can help a little bit. So yes, that is the guidance for agencies. So are agents good? Yes, absolutely. Could you still apply yourself? Yeah, sure. If you are 100% confident in your ability to be able to do all the research, find all the resources, go through the process yourself, have at it. Absolutely. But otherwise, yeah, agents, not a bad thing at all. The US is actually kind of new to agents. It was only about 4 years ago. It was like 2018, 2019. It was right before the pandemic. In 2019 is when Education USA. So in the United States, there's Education USA as part of the U.S. government. They help students find their way to study in the United States. Education USA, they gave the thumbs up to using agents at that point. Up until then, it depended on the office. Like there were offices in Brazil that loved agents, but then offices in other countries, I don't want to name them, but they actually hated agents. And so finally in 2019, Education USA is like, okay, yeah, if you choose an agent, sure, have at it. So actually really quick, since I did bring them up, Education USA, are they an agent? No, they are not an agent. They have offices in all major cities. Pros and cons about Education USA. I'm going to do another video about this another time, but really quick, a pro is, yeah, they're usually Americans that definitely know their stuff. They've been in industry long enough for a long time, and so they definitely know their stuff, and they could definitely give advice. The negative is they cannot be university specific. And so what that means is they cannot sit down with you and say, oh yeah, here are like 3 universities that have what you're looking for. Here's where you should apply. They're not supposed to do that. And so they could give general advice like, oh, what's needed to get a visa? How do I find the right school? How much will it cost? So they're able to offer those services, but they cannot be very, very specific. And they also cannot process the application for you. So for those reasons, agents are different from Education USA. And again, agents are good. So hope this has been helpful. Email us if you have any questions, contact@brightered.com. And yeah, we'll talk soon. Thanks. Take care.